On the edge of a bustling city stood a small orphanage, hidden behind tall buildings and noisy streets. Inside lived a boy named Arif, only 12 years old, with eyes that carried both wonder and longing. Arif had never stepped inside the city's grand mall, the one everyone talked about during the holiday season. To him, it was like a magical castle filled with lights, music, and dreams. One day, he whispered to himself, "Maybe this year, maybe I'll see it with my own eyes." Life at the orphanage was simple. The children shared meals, laughed over little games, and sometimes huddled together at night to tell stories before sleep. Arif, though quiet, was full of imagination. He would sit by the window, sketching on old paper with broken pencils, drawing the giant Christmas tree he had only seen in magazines. Despite his worn-out clothes and shoes that squeaked with every step, Arif carried a heart full of hope. The caretakers loved him dearly, but they couldn't afford to take the children to the luxurious mall. Still, Arif believed, somehow, someway, his dream would come true. As December's cold winds blew through the city, Arif made a silent promise. This year, no matter what, I will find a way to see those lights. What he didn't know was that his journey to the mall would lead to something far greater than just Christmas decorations. It would change his life forever. The streets buzzed with excitement. Families held hands, children pointed at bright displays, and carolers sang in the distance. Arif walked among them, his steps light, though his shoes were worn thin. His eyes sparkled as the grand mall came into view, towering glass walls glowing with golden light, and behind them, the promise of a Christmas tree taller than any he had ever imagined. But just as his dream was about to begin, reality struck. A tall security guard stepped forward, blocking the entrance. His uniform was crisp, his stare sharp. "Hey, boy," the guard barked. "Where do you think you're going?" Arif froze. He clutched the edge of his jacket, his voice trembling but polite. "Sir, I just want to see the Christmas tree." Just for a little while, the guard looked him up and down. His tone turned cold. "This place isn't for kids like you. Look at your clothes. You'll scare the shoppers. Move along." The laughter of children inside echoed through the glass doors. But Arif remained outside, small, invisible, and unwanted. His heart sank, yet a tiny flame inside refused to die. He whispered to himself, "No matter what, I'll find a way in." What Arif didn't know was that this refusal, this single act of rejection, would be the first stone in a path leading to the greatest twist of his young life. But for Arif, in that moment, all he felt was the cold wind biting his cheeks and the weight of defeat pressing on his chest. He could have turned back to the orphanage, swallowed his tears, and let the dream fade away. But deep inside, something stronger than fear began to rise, a voice whispering, "Don't give up." Not yet. Arif circled the mall, searching for a way in. At the side entrance, he saw families laughing as they showed their tickets to a holiday concert. He smiled hopefully, only to be waved away by another guard. He tried again, offering to carry shopping bags for a kind lady in exchange for a quick glimpse inside. She thanked him kindly, but shook her head. "They won't let you in, dear," she whispered, her eyes full of pity. Hours passed. The sky turned darker, and the mall glowed brighter, almost mocking him with its unreachable beauty. Arif's stomach growled, but he ignored the hunger. Each rejection, each failed attempt only sharpened his determination. He sat on the cold steps outside, clutching his small sketchbook. On its pages, he had drawn what he imagined the tree looked like: glittering ornaments, shining stars, and gifts piled beneath. He stared at the drawing and whispered, "I have to see it. Just once, for real." And so, with trembling hands and a heart that refused to quit, Arif made a vow. "I'll keep trying, even if the whole world says no." He had no idea that the harder the struggle became, the closer he was to the moment that would change everything. But for Arif, that night felt like the end of all hope. The mall shone brighter than ever, its lights dancing like stars just beyond his reach. Yet every door he tried was locked. Every glance from strangers reminded him of his worn clothes. Every attempt ended with the same silent rejection. Exhausted, Arif slumped against a cold wall. His small sketchbook slipped from his hands, its pages fluttering in the winter wind. He grabbed it quickly, hugging it close as though it were his last treasure. Maybe I don't belong here," he whispered. Tears welled in his eyes, but he forced himself not to cry. He had promised to be strong, even when no one noticed him. But now, standing outside the glowing gates of his dream, the promise felt heavier than ever. He looked up at the mall one last time. Families rushed inside, their laughter echoing in the night. His breath turned into clouds in the freezing air as he thought, if I can't enter through the front, the back, or the side, then maybe I was never meant to see it at all? Arif stood still, his heart torn between returning to the orphanage in silence or waiting just a little longer, hoping for a miracle, and in that moment of despair, headlights cut through the darkness. A sleek car rolled to a stop in front of the mall, its doors opening slowly. Out stepped a man in a long coat, his presence commanding, his gaze scanning the crowd. Arif wiped his eyes, hardly noticing at first, but then, as the man drew closer, something stirred deep within him. An echo of familiarity he couldn't explain. The man stopped. His eyes fell on Arif. He froze, as if seeing a ghost from the past, and Arif, clutching his sketchbook tightly, didn't yet realize that this stranger would turn his darkest night into the brightest moment of his young life. The man took a slow step forward, his eyes locked on the boy shivering at the mall's entrance. His face softened, trembling with disbelief. "Arif," he whispered, as though the name itself was a long-lost memory. Arif blinked, startled. How do you know my name?" His voice cracked, unsure if this was real or just another dream born from hunger and cold. The man knelt down, his expensive coat brushing the wet pavement. His hands shook as he reached out. "It's me, your brother. Do you remember? I left when you were so little. I never stopped searching for you." Arif's heart pounded. For years he had believed he was alone, forgotten by family. But now, the warmth in this stranger's voice was undeniable. His sketchbook slipped from his grasp as tears finally broke free. "Brother?" The man pulled him into a tight embrace. For the first time in years, Arif felt the safety of family, the warmth of belonging. The world around them seemed to pause, the crowd, the lights, even the cold winter air. Without another word, his brother stood tall and placed an arm protectively around Arif's shoulders. Together, they walked past the stunned security guard, who could only gape in silence. The boy who had been turned away moments earlier was now welcomed inside, side by side, with someone powerful enough to silence every doubt. And then, there it was, the giant Christmas tree, towering high, covered in golden ornaments and shimmering lights. Arif's eyes widened with wonder, his dream finally real, only sweeter, because he wasn't alone anymore. He whispered to himself, "I made it, and I found him." That night, Arif's world transformed, not just because he saw the lights he had always dreamed of, but because his life was no longer lived in shadows. He had found family, hope, and a new beginning. The security guard, who once dismissed him, now stood frozen, humbled by the sight of the boy who walked in hand with someone powerful, someone who cared. The shoppers who had looked past him before now turned their heads, whispering in surprise. Yet Arif no longer felt small under their gaze. He held his brother's hand, and in that touch he discovered his true worth. The lesson was clear, shining brighter than all the decorations in the mall. Never judge a soul by its appearance. Behind tattered clothes may live a heart of gold. Behind a weary smile may hide a story of strength. Arif had only wished to see the Christmas lights, Instead, he found the light of family, the warmth of belonging, and the courage to keep believing. And as the final carols filled the air and the trees sparkled above, Arif whispered a prayer of gratitude. Dreams do come true, sometimes in ways we never expect.